I'm really glad you're here. We need to talk about Ukraine. What's happening to Ukraine is happening to all of us. We need to stand together to end these hideous attacks against Celtic Europe. Where are the Celts? You only need to look at where the conquerors are attacking to find them. That might sound a little extreme, but think about it. Invaders and conquerors act alike. They pillage, burn, destroy, kill, steal treasures, overtake land and people. That causes displacements, refugees, the need for defense provisions and fortresses. Vladimir Putin is trying to destroy prosperous neighbors just exactly as the Caesars did. They both notoriously attack freedom-loving, family-based resident populations. So wherever a conqueror is attacking Europe, you'll find Celts, because Celts have been Europe's residents for the past 3,000 years. Let's put Celts into a genetic context here. Genetic studies show that almost invariably in ancient settlements, someone's DNA relates all the way back. People leave, they stay, or they come back to a homeland. People feel an attachment to ancestral lands. They likely still have relatives there. So that's Europe's resident population. Who then are Europe's continual enemies? The repeat offenders. Both Rome and Russia have given rise to male tyrants who invade, kill, and enslave law-abiding lands in unprovoked, vicious attacks. This has happened continually over the past 3,000 years, from Gaul to Ukraine. Attacks by authoritarians, by whatever name, Caesar, Tsar, Emperor, Dictator. So that's one way to see it. Prosperous, innovative, hospitable people are sitting ducks for brutal bullies who want to rampage the way the Caesars did. Take Ukraine, a country that has been burgeoning since it declared its independence from the Soviet Union in 1991. Here's where it gets really interesting. What do Celts have to do with Ukraine? It turns out that long ago, 2 Celtic families actually came to Ireland from Ukraine. Yes, according to DNA tests, Ireland has Ukrainian ancestry. What does that mean? Europe's population originally came from Africa, which is closer to Eastern Europe than the British Isles. So it makes sense that immigrants coming from Africa would have arrived in Eastern Europe before going to the British Isles. Eastern Europe was along major immigration routes through the Middle East to Europe. New arrivals could take land routes along the Baltic. After the invention of watercraft, they could cross the Bosporus Straits by boat more directly from the Middle East. Ukraine's lands are wonderfully situated. Its ancient city of Odessa opens out onto the Black Sea as a gateway between East and West. As a bustling center of commerce, trade routes have crisscrossed this region since people first settled there. So what would have prompted 2 Celtic families to travel from there all the way to Ireland? We need only think of the Russian attack on Ukraine to imagine that an ancient attacker laid siege to their strongholds. Drawing on past examples too, we know that Gaelic families fled southern France for Wales when Romans began annexing their lands and enslaving Gauls. What would have been the circumstances as the ancient refugees left? Let's think about gold and the escape route. Ukraine has mined gold for a long, long time. So yes, gold and taking slaves might well have attracted predators. Divide and conquer, destroy, deceive, enslave. What do the Russians target in Ukraine? Civilian houses, hospitals. They bomb a maternity hospital. Why? Ever since Caesar, a double bounty seems to have been placed on pregnant women. Of course, families flee. Their very core is under attack. And judging from the reaction in the 21st century, Ukraine, they flee in all directions and they try to reconnect with family members who left the homeland before them. So how can we know that the two Ukrainian families both reached Ireland? DNA links some Irish residents with Ukraine. So at least some of those who fled have survived to the present day. What else do we know about Celtic ways of life that help us understand the journey these two families made? The Greek stories of the Iliad and the Odyssey paint a picture of travel in ancient times. Homer's description shows a bustling world that existed before the Greek and Roman empires. All along the way, port towns are geared to accommodating travelers. They were then, and they are now too. From what we see across Europe, before the Common Era, Celts had developed webs of trade routes that were supported by port towns and way stations all along the way. Traces of these old trading stations can often still be detected in the names they carry. Let's talk about the area around Ukraine for a minute, because we've always known that Ireland is Celtic, right? We want to understand what the two Celtic families might have brought with them to Ireland from Ukraine. And I'm saying this because I know that when my own grandmother fled Europe, she carried her metal pots and baking pans with her. How to provide for your family under these horrible circumstances. Let's think of what necessities refugees take with them. They would carry their metal pots after iron smelting had been developed. They take with them whatever they can carry as the most important things in their lives. They take their skills, their goods, and their brains. And like my grandmother, the women are thinking how to feed their family on a very practical, essential level. How can she cook the food? We feel horror at what we see happening to the Ukrainian people. The horror of what they are suffering, that they are being wrenched from their homes. This history is repeating itself again and again. It's an affront against the entire world of peace-loving people. It's a bold-faced attempt to take over a freedom-loving people by an authoritarian monster. We stand with Ukraine. The people of Ukraine must prevail. Glory to Ukraine. Glory to the heroes.